Good morning or good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Latila and I will be presenting on Ascaris Lumbricoides today. Presentation will simply contain the following: the introduction, clinical features, lifestyle, the pathophysiology of Ascaris Lumbricoides, the lab diagnosis, treatment and preventative measures, and lastly the conclusion. So to begin off with my presentation, the Ascaris Lumbricoides is a soil-transmitted nematode with males measuring up to 15 to 30 centimeters long, while females measure from 20 to 35 centimeters long. They reside in the intestine, and their oval eggs can be found in an infected person's feces. In the next slide, we have how Ascaris Lumbricoides is classified in the animal kingdom, with its kingdom being Animalia, its phylum being Nematoda, and so on and so forth until its genus Ascaris. So we have clinical manifestations in the next slide. These are symptoms that a person can experience that will indicate that they have Ascaris Lumbricoides present in their body or intestine. We have abdominal discomfort, coughing, vomiting, slow growth in children, and bloating. Moving on to the pathophysiology, or how this nematode causes disease in the body. It is ingested with food. This occurs when food is not thoroughly washed during its preparation time. It reaches the duodenum, to which it is able to penetrate through the duodenum walls and enter the blood circulation. Once it enters the circulation, it can migrate to the lungs, to which they are coughed or swallowed in again. This is when people experience abdominal discomfort, coughing as it migrates to the lungs, or bloating, sometimes vomiting as well. The final development areas for this nematode occurs in the bowel region, to which it is then excreted and then released back into the swine, as seen in the diagram given here. Moving on, similarly to pathophysiology, the Ascaris Lumbricoides embryonated egg is ingested, possibly through inadequately washed foods, and then it travels to the intestine, to where it matures into its full worm-like structure, and then it reproduces or migrates to the lungs, reproduces, and then the ova is found in the feces of the infected person. This is how the ova is seen under a microscope in the lab. To lab tests, we have two forms of analysis that can be done in the lab. We have stool samples and we have blood samples. Stools are basically collected in the brown top container, and then it is viewed and examined under the microscope in hopes or in searching for the egg or ovum of the Ascaris Lumbricoides. And then we have blood tests, for which we can test for eosinophils. Eosinophils deal with parasitic infection, so an increase in eosinophil can indicate the presence of Ascaris Lumbricoides, but it's not really accurate, because the increase can also indicate other parasitic infections as well. So in the next slide, we have treatment and preventative measures for any parasitic infections as such. We have albenza, stromectol, and mebenzol. These are antiparasitic medication, as said, and anti-helminthic medications that will kill adult parasites or simply remove parasites from the body. These are effective in various worm infections. Thank you. To conclude with my presentation today, due to the country's subtropical climate, helminth species and the diseases in which they produce are able to have a widespread in our nation. Ascaris is also the world's most prevalent helminth infection. So adhering to the preventative measures as stated, such as washing hands, washing vegetables, and cooking meat thoroughly, can help reduce the risk as much as possible. So also in places with poor sanitation, it is very much encouraged that they adhere to these preventative measures to reduce the risk of being infected by these parasitic infections. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. These are my references, and I hope that there will not be any questions. And thank you so much for listening.